By then nilikuwa nimeshapen panga. Juu panga moja yenye ilikuwa imeachwa kwa hardware. Nikapeleka kwa grinder. Kashapeniwa vizuri, nikaeka kwa bag.
Abel.
The marks on my thighs, I can't cover that up because yes, I wear clothes that cover that up. But the ones that were on my arms, on my hands, I had to like draw tattoos on them. So I didn't have to remember.
Jane.
Tell this guy that you guys should go home. I asked my God, how am I going to do it? This is a situation I am now.
Mary.
I didn't block him on WhatsApp and everything. I left it there. I will let you see my growth and my happiness. You won't put me down.
And Maya are just 4 among the many victims. In April 9th, the year 2019, the country was shocked to the news of a 28-year-old hacking his girlfriend to death in broad daylight. Ivy Wangeshi. In April 4th, the year 2021, 37-year-old man died during a physical fight with his spouse, Daniel Onyango. Within a span of 2 years, there have been several murder cases of relationships in Kenya. Emily Jelimo, Zachary Ndwiga, Sharon Otieno, and many more others that unfortunately have not been documented.
Those are the traumatic experiences. We call them in professional words or counseling the unfinished business. There were things that you did not move out of them and you got to a relationship.
But with the alarming rate of death cases in relationships, do these spouses show prior signs of toxicity? And if they do, why do the victims still decide to stay? In our quest to understand toxic relationships, my team and I went in search of answers and experiences from victims. Our search led us to one of the estates in Nairobi, where we met 24-year-old Jane, not her real name.
When you're in love with someone, you're always willing to compromise. You're always willing to go that extra mile. So you don't realize it's toxic up until it is really toxic. I was in a relationship with this guy and I was in love. Ladies, you know, when we're in love, you're willing to compromise, you're willing to, let me forgive you this one time, let me let it slide this one time, and then we'll talk about it, we'll make it better, we'll make it work out. And for me, I was always like, yes, I do see you doing this. I've never seen it in any relationship, but because I do love you, I'm willing to let it go, I'm willing to let it slide, because at that moment, I feel it is the right thing to do. So I'm like, okay.
Jane is a believer, and one of the things she really believed in was true love. But at some point, this ceased to be the case.
Do you know this guy started beating me? When I started running, there was that offense. So I'm trying to jump over the fence because now it's serious. And yes, I jumped to save my life. So Nico like, and to this day, the marks on my thighs, I can't cover that up because yes, I wear clothes that cover that up. But the ones that were on my arms, on my hands, I had to like draw tattoos on them. So I didn't have to remember that at some point I was trying to get away from the man that I felt.
When we moved to Obama Estate, I met our second source, Mary. As a mother of two, she has had a story to tell.
When I met the guy, I had my firstborn. That's my daughter. She's now 8 years old. And after some times, I was pregnant for him. Then in this pregnancy, we could have fight till the day of my delivery.
In our chat, she reveals the deadliest part of her story.
Because I wanted to protect him. Yeah, until the day he even beat me up with a metal rod. Yeah, kwa kichwa. So I have some mark here. Yeah, I have some mark on my head. I lay down for almost 3 hours, bleeding. After all, he took me to my bedroom. I stayed there 2 weeks without no one knowing. Yeah.
At this point, we were quite sure that the people actually exist. But why would anyone stay in a relationship that isn't working?
This is a situation where we as women, we do say, let me just persevere to protect my marriage. You can't even have this story to anyone because you feel this is your husband and he's someone you love, so you want to protect him.
I could see the innocence in her eyes, but unfortunately, this had to fall on her. In search for answers, we invited a psychologist and a family therapist to help us understand the reasons behind staying in toxic relationship for a long time.
And also lastly, because of the shame. People feel like if I move out of this relationship, what people will say, what my friends will say, how people will see me. Maybe because you left another marriage, you enter this. People will say that I'm leaving marriage to get to another.
Dr. Robert Osoro.
Everything starts from the brain. You start seeing a young maybe man outside there or woman, and let me say, the fact remains that when you stay together so much, you get used to, and you have to now raise up your values, your dignity. But if you cannot have values and dignity, it means you will try to look for another person. You hear people say, I've eaten vegetable or skuma wiki every day. I can't eat. I have to change to meat. I have to change. This is a narrative.
Narratives. Narratives that have escalated into regrets, broken hearts, trauma, and even death.
It was not the first time that thing happened. It was intense, fine. But the rest were more intense because they weren't physical, but they were mental, and they were words that were spoken to you. You see, this is someone who shouted and he told you that, I don't love you. All I want from you is sex, and that is what I'm going to get, and there's nothing I'm going to do about it. And he started yelling, and the more he was yelling, the more he was getting all furious and coming up to where I was. And it was so scary, honestly, because he was bigger than me. And it was so scary for me. And but yeah, anyway, nikamwangalia akiendelea na kenye alikuwa anafanya.
Meet Maya, a student. She has been in 2 relationships, all toxic.
I used to have this rope of mine that I used to skip with in the morning. And I used to go to the gym sometimes. So he took my rope and whipped me with it. And I told him to stop, and he didn't stop. And I looked at him in his eyes, and he then smiled at me. Gender-based violence is something that's a huge topic right now. You see, it's a debate because it's not just about hitting people, women and men, because not just women are being hit. Even men are victims to such, and I think Your mental health is very important.
Maya introduces us to an interesting aspect of our story: male victims. We live in a society where men are deemed strong, but unfortunately, mental issues are not limited by gender. We therefore organize a meeting with Abel at the Technical University of Kenya, where he introduces us to another aspect of toxicity.
I view ladies like they are materialistic, but haendei ule mwenye mwanaume mwenye anampenda, anaendea yeye mwenye anapenda.
The emotional aspect.
I girlfriend her a period of 3 months, then we venture in a love relationship without knowing he's a married lady. Mahali nimeka mabati, nyumba za mabati, ndio ni biashara, kuna milango 3 zenye nilikuwa nimehaya wengine. Sasa hizo ndio ziliachwa tu, lakini hizi zingine 3 zangu la boutique, salon na hardware, alibeba kila kitu. Venye nilipata vitu zangu zimeenda, kitu ya kwanza nilifikiria tu ni msichana. So nilianza kufigure out places zinaweza mpata kwao, kwa aunti yake ama kwa sister yake. So nikiwa napanga, by the way nilikuwa nimeshapen panga. Juu panga moja yenye ilikuwa imeachwa kwa hardware, nikapeleka kwa grinder, kashapeniwa vizuri, nikaweka kwa bag. Ai bana, mimi ilikuwa maisha yangu na yake ziishe tu.
The big question we ask, is taking the matter on our hands the right solution? Elijah Oruko Sr. is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. In a document written by him on the application of the law on matters gender-based violence, he stated the following, and I quote, "The law, however, comes in when the relationship is abusive in a way that it infringes on the rights of either the parties in the relationship." End of quote. He also added, and I quote, "The good news is that sexual and physical abuse is well provided for in our legislative systems. The Sexual Offence Act 2006, the Penal Code, and the Criminal Procedure Code, the law prohibits assault and battery, meaning one can be charged for threatening and beating a partner or causing them any form of violence." End of quote. As provided in the Article 27 of the Constitution, Section 1, 2, and 3, and Article 29, Section C, D, and F of the Constitution, these matters on equity and freedom from discrimination, as well as freedom and security of the person, respectively, are addressed vividly. Elijah Oruko Sr. illustrates the process of filing such cases as follows, and I quote, "The victim reports to the police station and records a statement. The case is lodged in the occurrence book and an OB number is issued. The police, on information availed, should arrest the perpetrator and availed to court within 24 hours apart from the weekend and public holidays, which they shall be remanded until the next appropriate day. The criminal process shall then continue until conviction for any crime committed." Despite it all, Jane, Mary, Maya, and Abel afforded a word.
What you can take. The moment your gut feeling tells you, I can't take this, this is not where I'm supposed to go, this is not what I'm supposed to do, let it go. Let it go. And letting it go is not as easy as kuamka switch off, you're like, Sawa, I am done. It is a process, one day at a time. Stop talking to this man. Stop tolerating his bullshit. Stop taking it. And personally, like I said when we were studying, I am a born again person. When I was going through all this, I wasn't that deep in Christ. But as at right now, you don't have to tell every other person what you're going through. Pray about it. Take your time. Take all the time you need to heal.
If you have a good heart, you have a good heart. Ikawa ni mzoveni, just accept. Hivyo ndio uko. You understand? So me ni mtu mwenye I'll forgive him and I'll be friends with him like nothing ever happened. You see? So I just need to give myself time to let everything go fast.
Just a second chance.
Amen.